How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Q&A. Today we're joined with Mod Matt K.
Hi.
Mod Kieran.
Hello.
Mod John C.
Hiya.
Mod Ghost.
Hello.
Mod Ash.
Hello.
And myself, Mod Arch. So we did a pretty big update today. New minigame, Last Man Standing. You guys might have seen it. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about that before we get into today's questions. And also Mod Ghost will be showing off the second Raids boss sneak peek of the week. Very exciting stuff. Cool, so Last Man Standing. Fun fact, Last Man Standing, each game removes 400k cash from the game, gone entirely as a gold sink. Does anybody want to take a guess except for you? How much gold has been removed from the game in just the few hours or so? And maybe Ash as well? Any guesses?
100 billion gold.
Let's check the chat.
Quarter bill.
How much?
Quarter bill.
250 mil?
If you think the answer is 1111, say 1111.
Not a bad guess. 400k from each game.
I
It's
reckon
been
85 mil.
85 mil? It's a lot. Nobody's coming even close. It's 2.4 bill.
Wow.
2.4 bill
You were closest.
has been removed. That was like a half hour ago as
You
well.
can't
so it's
class him as a
probably
winner. Like,
He was
It's
close.
probably
he was
close
the
to 3
closest,
bill by
but-
now.
I was just the worst loser. You want to panic sell gold, I think, is the...
Congratulations, you have won a warm, fuzzy feeling inside. Speak to Django if you lose it.
Is this our best gold sink? Do we have anything that removes cash faster than this?
Construction, I think on its
Okay,
launch
construction.
day was one of them. We got some data on its launch day. It was really quite cool.
Yeah, that's a good competitor, to be fair. Okay, so quickly take you through some of the patch notes or hot fixes, whatever you want to say. Jed gave me these just before we went live. So a couple things that were changed. Followers are no longer allowed in Last Man Standing. Lisa won't let you enter the lobby if you have one with you. Iron Men can no longer participate in competitive. They can loot items in casual, however. Items with no cost in the shrine have been fixed. You can now drop rune and arrow packs. No more random events in the lobby. Spell effects will not follow you into the minigame, i.e. Vengeance. The priestess will no longer lose the items she was holding for you if you die in Last Man Standing. Quick little caption to go with that. Jed said, basically, we stay away from using the term safe death with this minigame. It is a dangerous minigame. It was intended to be, and deaths are essentially treated as PvP deaths. So, there you go.
I suppose if you weren't carrying anything, it's rather hard to tell if it was safe or not.
Right?
Unless we let it work on a dead man mode world one day.
Maybe.
Let's get into the questions then. So first one's from Threw It Up, who says, why are Grand exchange prices only allowed to fluctuate by 5% per day? That's really slow compared to how things change in RuneScape's economy.
Yeah, so this thing, remember, was designed back in like 2007 when what was coming up was a trade restriction and all trades would be clamped to use the official prices. So in those days, designing a Grand Exchange for it, it needed to track its prices in a way that couldn't be manipulated very much. Naturally, the items started off at the best price we could get from fan sites, etc. But at that point, it needed to ensure that they only changed in response to real trades, and that if a clan of people got together and tried to make the price of fire runes go up by 100%, then that would be very hard for them. So the entire thing was built around the idea that it needed a lot of trades to happen before anything could shift, and only by a certain amount each day to make sure that things couldn't fluctuate completely wildly. And in 2007, there wasn't a lot of choice. We weren't doing these things because we thought it was going to be the ideal way to have the game work. We were doing it because we thought we were up against a major problem that needed to be addressed by taking out free trade. Not something done lightly, from what I understood from the managers back then. Anyway, fast forward to 2016, and we've got the Grand Exchange still working as it always did, and trying to work for old school items, some of which are like coming from a treasure trail. There aren't, hundreds of them in the game to be traded back and forth each day. And we'd really like the Grand Exchange reprogrammed a bit to remove some of these restrictions. At the moment, if we tried to specify really flexible limits on them, like let the item change price if there's only 2 trades, the engine just ignores us because it knows we couldn't possibly want that. It's still working off the way it was programmed in 2007. So yeah, we can get the engine reprogrammed to be more flexible, let us be flexible, and let things go up and down like yo-yos. You will get more manipulation, I suspect, from that kind of thing. I reckon you'll be all right overall with a lot less protection you got now. But it is, as always, one of those things inside the game engine. And since the Grand Exchange code is actually shared with RS3, we've got less flexibility than usual about having it reprogrammed on demand. But I would like to see it changed.
Right. I know yesterday, I was going to say last week, it was just yesterday, we were speaking of potentially even just changing the prices manually for newer items coming into the game because they're the most common used ones for scams in
Which
that
I would
regard.
like to, although promising to do that for every item on demand for the rest of eternity is not a very conducive way to run anything.
All right, let's go to the next question then. Can you make it possible to use an Ava's device with the decorative range quiver to give the look of the quiver with the added effect of the Ava's device?
That sort of goes towards not being able to recognise what items do when you look at them, which is something which always comes quite highly in the polls that we put out there.
I think a quiver kind of looks like an accumulator, though. Like,
It starts with one thing, doesn't it? That's the thing. It's, you know, there's that famous saying that I'm going to get wrong, but you know, first they did this and I didn't stand up because it didn't matter to me, and then somebody else did something else, and then the whole world fell apart. That made no sense at all, did it?
I don't know, the world's falling apart.
I'm not saying it on live stream, it sounds a bit political.
Is it? Oh, okay, fair enough.
Well, it usually is.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. But it's the first step towards, you know, towards what that is, which would concern me a bit.
The end of RuneScape.
Yeah, and RuneScape, yeah. I mean, EOC is clearly going to come if we start doing this.
I see the end of the question on this version says, and make castle walls more appealing. Assuming they're talking about how the decorative range quiver would make castle walls more appealing. I assume that's what they mean.
I assume he's just trying to drive more traffic there, maybe make it a bit busier.
Because you actually can get the Ava effect in the castle walls already if you show your dead chicken to Lanthus in the lobby.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Next question then. Corcelia says, can unsuccessful box traps have a reassemble option so that we don't have to keep picking them up and placing them back down?
So you want to be able to right-click the failed one? Yeah, I'm sure we could do that.
Ian's the expert on the Hunter code, but I'm willing to bet we could find a way.
Yeah, I'm sure we could.
Yeah.
All right. Lol Puriful says, can we change the cosmetic any guesses as to what that is?
Staff.
Oh, well done. The Obby
This is
staff.
always the question with the staff. You can just guess.
The Obby staff. Can we change the requirement from 60 attack to 60 strength? A suggestion apparently got
Maybe
a lot
it's
of
not the
support.
staff.
I think it's the... Hang on,
It's
no,
the-
the
it is
maul's the
the-
one that ends
it is
in
the
all.
staff.
The maul is the strength one, so this will be either the knife, the sword,
No,
or
it is
the
the
mace.
staff.
Oh,
It is.
then why would you have 60 strength? Because it's already got 60 magic. It makes sense to just remove.
It does make sense for it to have a 60 attack requirement. To be
Well, it does,
honest.
because you wield it same as wielding a dragon axe. You need to.
Hmm.
If we were making it from scratch, I'm pretty damn sure we wouldn't have given it any kind of attack requirement.
Don't
But
you need an attack requirement to hold the magic staffs?
you do most
Yeah.
of
The
them.
battle
do?
staffs, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 30 for the standard ones, 40 for the mystic.
Right. So that's
This
probably
one
the
is-
mentality for why then.
This one's crap.
I mean, the thing dates back to 2006-ish, so it would have been configured a lot like the other ones.
Basically, if we do this, it appeals to Obby Malpures. That's as far as I can imagine. Which is a little bit of something, at least. They get something.
I'd be more in favour of just removing the attack requirement rather than shifting it to another, silly
Does it
thing.
have any melee stats?
I'd take those with it. I know
Yeah.
off the top of my head.
I don't much like suddenly adding a requirement to an item that people have reasonably had for quite a long time, especially if they're in the habit of trying to keep their combat stats low. Because if they've legitimately got it and can use it, then adding this requirement that might mean they can't anymore would be what you might call mean. Not to mention a right pain for us trying to get it off them when they log in.
Okay.
So taking off the requirement,
Yeah.
assuming the players could be persuaded to vote for such a thing, which is a
course.
bit of an if,
Oh, yeah.
is something we'd be up for.
Panic my
That
staff.
sounds like an appropriate straw poll, I think.
Yeah.
We get that. So, you guys know the Obby staff, hopefully. If you don't, it's bad. That's all you need to know.
Did we have that thing in the construction update?
Yeah, Mod West showed me what it looks like
Oh, you've done it.
yesterday. So yeah, the POH Superior Garden uses the obsidian staves and rings in the creation of a fence, which looks actually rather awesome.
It would have to if it's going to make out this have added those things.
So the question for the straw poll, would you like the Obby staff to have its attack requirement removed?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it has a 60 attack requirement. For
By the way, the
whatever
poly
reason.
count on that thing is like 2499. Yes.
That's the thing, is it looks really cool, and everything Obby and Zara in general is like really cool. in my
That's going to be
opinion,
one of
but
those
it's just-
epic fences ever.
It's got an environment to go with it as well, I believe. Dark environment, I can't remember.
All right, well, while you guys are voting on that, let's go to the next question. My name is Mo says, can we left-click place dynamite on the cavity after we excavate it?
This has come up before. I forget the answer.
Well,
I wouldn't have a
the
problem with
answer
it.
is probably yes.
Okay.
Sure, why not?
It's already really click intensive. I wouldn't mind
Yeah.
this small improvement.
If you've gone to all the trouble of using that thing, then yes.
All right, we've got a couple more blast mining questions here. Bosnian says, can you add a message to the chat box letting us know we have 10 seconds till a blasted ore disappears?
That one might be a little harder, depending on what timers it's got running at the moment already. Because if it's got one that knows when the thing's meant to disappear, having a second one that's trying to track 10 seconds before that would need to have a very high chance of going out of sync.
Yeah.
But it'd be worth looking into, even if we couldn't promise to make it work.
It would be handy.
Sorry, we've got the results back from that straw poll. So would you like to see the Obby staff have its attack requirements removed? 60% yes. This looks like a lot of people just like it not being very good. There you go. Guess something in the game can't be...
What if we tied it to a circle and that did something?
Ammo for the circle.
Ammo for the circle from
It would
Ronan.
create an item that eats Kraken tentacles.
You could fire out the light ballista.
Encrusted with dragonstones.
This is turning into our weekly meme stream. Let's go to the next blast mining question here from Bosnian. It says, can you add a message to the chat box? That was the previous question, sorry. Tomer says, is it possible we can buy dynamite packs from the dynamite store? It takes forever to buy dynamite.
Where exactly did we put the dynamite store? Check a look
It's
from that
just outside the blast mine itself in the Lower King area.
I need to have a bank in this area.
It's
I know I put one in
close
the
by.
middle of the blast mine.
I think the closest one is the one on the southern side of the mine in that corner.
Yeah, I know I put one there. I was just thinking, if we gave you a whole load of banknote to dynamite and then you went up to a cliff face with it, it wouldn't thank you very much. But as long as they don't mind taking it to a bank at that point.
Yeah, we could just make the packs just give you unloaded, I'm sure.
Those packs kind of assume that you've got room to unpack the entire thing all at once,
Yeah.
which tends to be 100 items. That's why we've only ever done them for stackables and items with banknotes. And by and large, that's worked fine.
Maybe not then.
Was it so bad to go to a bank first? Did you buy them?
I did some time trials on that. I think it was fairly okay. I honestly can't remember off the top of my head.
I think the answer is we could, if you were actually convinced you would benefit from us doing it.
Yeah. It didn't take us a fair bit of time.
So maybe needs a little bit more support. Let's go to the next question then. Throwaway says, suggestion actually, says rare monster spawns. This has obviously been brought up before several times, but he's got a little bit of a different idea. So having them be relative to the monsters you're currently killing. So his example here, if you're killing hobgoblins, randomly a goblin king might spawn and have better loot table. These spawns would be incredibly rare and just a random kind of interesting thing to pop up on a very rare occasion.
RuneScape did something similar last year with high-level mobs. When you're slaying, like on a Dark Beast task, a huge Dark Beast of monstrous fear can appear and you get 3 rolls at the drop table and it's got a few cool special attacks.
I do like this idea.
Yeah,
I think it can add a little bit of a little bit more interest to a long slay task. That otherwise could be pretty monotonous.
Are they timed based on the number of people in the vicinity, or is it something that just happens in the area every half an hour or so?
I think it was
imagine
called on the death of, in the area of one of the standard local NPCs, I think.
That's certainly a way I wouldn't mind doing it.
It seems like the most sensible, at least. Whether they actually did it like that, I don't know.
These would be extremely rare, and they wouldn't offer any new items. Just I imagine slightly more than what an average one
just
would.
Yeah, three rolls
you
on the
give
drop
it 3 rolls, and we make it a little bit tougher, and maybe a mechanic here and there.
Okay.
I would be keen to do it on Slayer only, so that if you're on a Slayer task for that creature, there's a chance of getting an Elite 1 spawn.
New NPC models, or just make them
Just
bigger with a
resize them.
different
Just
color?
bigger ones, probably.
Okay.
If we want it to be able to come out at all in the immediate future, then yeah.
Okay.
And we
Cool
do
idea.
some a few of the high level Slayer monsters.
Monstrous abyssal demon of doom.
Of course, we'll probably discover that if we scale up one of them skeletons to make a high level one of those, what we get turns out to be Vettian's model.
Or a giant skeleton.
Yeah.
Should we do a struggle on that? Like,
Giant skeleton.
Would you like to see essentially elite Slayer mobs? There's a slim chance of them spawning when you're on a Slayer task.
Is
Don't call them
is
elite. That's not called elite. That sounds
Rare.
Sounds elitist, doesn't it?
champions.
Are they mobs or is it? I was just thinking it's just one.
Well, it's just one.
I'm
Yeah.
saying
But I mean,
mob as in monster.
There's several.
Oh, okay. I was
different
thinking
types.
like several of them. We'll get that straw poll in the chat for you guys momentarily. This will be a very curious one. Well, let's go to the next question in the meantime then. EXE says, make it so wyverns don't change aggro after they freeze you. Also, let them aggro onto the closest person after they spawn. This can be quite irritating.
I don't think we could do anything about the closest person upon spawn.
Yeah,
Sadly, that feature came to the engine sometime after 2007.
Oh, that's something they got. That's cool.
There's even a field in our config settings for prefer equals random, prefer equals nearest, prefer equals furthest. And if you set anything that isn't random, it says you can only have random.
Nice.
But you can see that Andrew was planning to expand a lot further. He just
It'd be cool to expand that because I can see that being useful for bosses. And
incredibly. I think I did one set of creatures that preferred the person with the highest hit points in the
yeah,
vicinity.
we're going to do it on lowest defense. It targets the weak person in the group.
That'd be
that sort
really
of thing.
interesting
That could
for,
be really interesting.
The tank roll in teams, yeah.
In terms of the freeze thing, I imagine that's perhaps similar to the monkeys.
If we stick in a few extra creature has recently been under attack, or you have recently been under attack,
Yeah.
around that freeze attack, we can probably achieve the effect they're looking for.
Awesome.
Worked on the monkeys.
That would be a nice one. Okay, we've got the results back from that straw poll. Would you like to see elite slay mobs appear during tasks with a very low rate? 80%, which is quite odd.
Awesome.
Normally you guys don't like these ideas. It's a cool one.
I think that could be a really cool update.
Yeah. Cool. Next question then. Runar says, can the 2 strength XP you get for pushing wheat in Puro Puro be removed? It's annoying for skillers.
Yeah,
That's fair.
That is completely
Who put that there?
pointless.
2 experience? That is just to piss off the skillers.
Who wrote Puro?
Mod Hero, a very, very long time ago, he probably hadn't been in the company all that long at the time, and may not have realised quite what it was he was doing there.
I think it's a really I can see why you think it was a totally nice complimentary thing to add, make it feel like rounded content.
You use some strength, you get rewarded for
Well,
it.
your strength level also affects how fast you push through the wheat, doesn't it? So
yes.
I can see why you would give token XP for it, but there's no point for it. No one really wants that XP.
It's like
If they did, that'd be rather sad.
the random free 600 attack XP you get from killing the ice demon in the Cold War quest.
Yes, 100 attack XP for that. You know the way pest control was originally going to work? Got a story here. The idea was that since it's Knights of Gothics and they like balance and he likes balance, when you finished a game, it would find your lowest combat skill and give you 10 times your level. So if your lowest combat level happened to be, strength, and you were level 30, you get 300 strength XP.
So if you're a pure...
You have no choice about it. You would be, if you were level 1 defense, you'd get 10 defense XP every time until you became level 2. And that's how it was going to be all the way through development until the day before launch, or possibly even the day of launch, when somebody at a bit of higher level in the company stepped in and agreed to give it a menu and let you choose which XP it was going to be, and maybe have a different formula as well.
What does Tears of Gothics do? Is that just skills? Or does it include combat?
Oh, it includes combat, all right.
Fair enough.
I think it's biased towards cooking.
Yeah, it doesn't read them in the actual skill by integer, does it?
It appears to read them in the order the developer thought of it.
It is actually looking for XP though, not level.
XP, yeah. And it's taking into account the invisible decimal as well.
Oh, nice.
All right. Here's a fun question for the chat. Kel says, can we have an option in-game to track the virtual levels past level 99?
That is actually not too difficult for us to do, I don't think, because I think I spoke to you about it before, the constants just reads a certain experience.
Well, frankly, the XP tracking thing we put into the XP droplet system,
to 126,
that goes, it handles invisible levels just fine, it just doesn't show them, but if you type in an invisible level, it will give you the XP number for it. And we could apply the same data to the tooltip very easily. We just, at the time, chose not to.
I don't think this will be popular.
I think it's
Doesn't look it.
because RS3 has it. It's specifically our players are like, we can't have that.
Here's the thing. If we did it, we'd do it as a toggle, because why the heck wouldn't we? And just of all the ways we could be spending the time writing a toggle for it, I've never really wanted to go there, but we so could. That's why I wrote it into the XP tracker thing in a way that it only existed if you went looking for it.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't show you drop downs going up to 126 or whatever. It just acknowledges if you type 115, we knew what you meant, and we carry on working with it.
Okay. Next question then. Shelley says, could you add Slayer gem packs to Slayer Masters so it's easier to bulk buy supplies to create Slayer rings?
Again,
That would probably have a sizable impact on crafting if they're using it for crafting XP.
More pressingly, unless the thing had a banknote,
yeah,
we'd
they're
have a problem
untradeable.
unpacking that.
Oh yeah, that's also true.
Those gems are untradeable, and therefore can't have a banknote. But they were only made untradeable so that in 2005 people wouldn't think they were buying a valuable gem and getting this junk item. So we could make them tradable.
Write that one down.
It's not something we have a problem with at all. And then they'd have a banknote, and then they could have a pack, and also that you could buy 1,000 off them with G at the same time if they existed like that.
But yeah, I don't know.
Slayer
It is really inconvenient when you want to make some Slayer rings for yourself, and you got to buy several inventories.
How much
as well.
XP did you get for crafting a Slayer ring? Because I'm pretty sure you reduced it from what it was originally launched as in 2008.
I did that to one of the ammo things.
Yeah, broad
I don't
arrows.
think I did it to the Slayer gem.
The chat's saying 15 XP. Chat is sometimes right.
If it's only 15 XP, we probably don't have
Then
to
that's
care about
fine,
it.
but yeah, because in
If the chat
RuneScape,
says
I think it's like
111111, then they're probably not talking about this.
They're all saying 15.
Yeah,
Apparently
we'll
they all
verify
craft
that,
these
of course, but then that's I was going to have no
They're
impact
cheating.
on
They're at a
Slayer.
computer. They could just Google it.
Yeah, that's true.
Sure, I can Google it.
Okay. Let's go to the next question. Lore Master says,
On a video from my friend.
can we get yak hide added to the 10 leather spell, seeing as how it's in the animation?
Fair.
Is it in the animation and we don't offer it?
I remember when I think Alfie was doing those animations. I think it might be. I just hope, why is that there? But presumably, like, he knew that it was and stuff, which it isn't.
Blame Alfie.
Yeah, that's my
Alright.
default position, I'm afraid.
How often do people tan yak hide?
I was wondering.
I don't think I've ever tanned yak hide.
Maybe
Sure,
they will
yeah,
now.
Very grateful.
Yes.
I think it was even gross. It was kind of like a tangly thing with like pink flesh on the back.
Well, I imagine if you were to go to a yak and cut its skin off, you
Yeah.
would get something quite grotesque.
It was
I
oddly
once
accurate.
saw some tanned elephant hide because I used to work. Selling furniture. And one of the pieces of furniture we sold were leather sofas. So we were told how leather sofas were made and what have you. Do you know where the best leather comes from? Which country makes the best leather from cows?
Yemen,
No.
Jersey?
England.
Is that evil? Should I not say Jersey?
No, say Jersey. You're
I
right,
think
no.
it's this one because we use stone walls more than barbed wire.
No, it's Sweden. Because they've
Okay.
outlawed barbed wire, so their skins are much nicer. Anyway, that's by the by. So
we
I
do
saw
not advocate using elephant hide for
Yeah.
anything.
But
Yeah,
elephant
I
hide
swear,
is
we
about
get
this
close
thick.
to PETA every stream.
Yeah.
When it's tanned,
true,
it's
isn't it?
absolutely massive. Their skin's about this thick.
But they can just shave that loads and get tons out of it.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, what are you making out of a thing that's a sofa that thick?
Yeah, so what you do is you have your skin that's
Shave
cut.
it.
So I hope you're learning something today. You have your
Matt,
skin
you're
that's
triggering
cut.
every vegan right now.
Yeah, sorry, and all that. But the leather industry is a byproduct of the food industry, so all the animals are eaten for food, and then there's nothing that's bred for leather. So you have your skin, and the top layer of skin, which is the outside layer of skin, that's the most expensive and hard wearing. That's where you get the best leather sofas from, and they take different cuts from the tanned hide, and then one at the bottom's the cheapest, and
Okay,
they're least hard wearing. And what they do to make it look pretty is they run it through a roller. This is completely nothing to do with the game, but anyway, it's a fascinating story. They run it through a boiling hot
It's
roller,
really not.
and it melts the top of the skin, and then they run another roller across it, which has an imprint on it, which makes it look all very nice and pretty. And an imprint. So it's not actually the grain of the skin that you see even.
Yeah, okay.
There you go. I hope you all learned something today.
So which
I
animal
spent several
does-
years selling.
Oh, I
furniture.
thought I
why
had a polka
isn't-
dot cow.
Why isn't that incorporated into our tanning in game?
It's
Don't
not.
know, I've always wanted it to, but no one listens to
We've
it.
got mammoths.
You know, if it was a piece of leather that thick, and it wouldn't be very soft or anything, that might explain this.
Maybe it's been rolled.
No, this is not leather.
This is also true. Whatever it is, it wipes clean if you spill your tea on it.
Also, when we went to this place, it was in Wales. We went. It was very cheap drinks in the pub the night before, so we all felt a bit worse for wear in the morning. And they took us into the testing factory first, where they set fire to safers to find out their flame retardancy.
Okay.
And so you had a horrible smell of leather burning, and you had this big pneumatic machine going in the corner, and it wasn't very nice.
Right.
I think you old people have cracked the clue in there.
It's about RuneScape.
Yeah.
In case he tells us any more things.
Let's do
Sorry,
that.
carry on.
All right. Mr. Blitzo says, any plans on adding any more best-in-slot specific niche weapons into the game, like the Arclight is for demons?
I love what the Arclight's done. I'd happily do other weapons like that in the future.
Especially
it's just
if
when
we
you,
work by upgrading an existing item into it.
yeah, certainly. But
So
we
simple.
need a good piece of content for it,
We
ultimately.
talk
Yeah.
about doing something like the Curious or something like that.
How about if there's something in the game that would be really, really well killed by Seercol? Like Infernal Mage.
Just Infernal Mage.
Not that I know of many people who go to those things, but they would be an appropriate target.
Why not?
It makes sense.
Let's make the Circle really good against Infernal Mage.
One thing worth mentioning when it comes to that kind of thing, and I see this stuff come up on Reddit all the time, so I sort of want to reply to it. Yeah, this is Ronan, by the way. Hello. While we want to do those things to slow down any power creep, we've also got to consider that we don't want to overdo it. Because as much as it is nice to not have power creep, it's also nice to not have a different item for every monster in the game. So we do have to consider that there is a balance to be had there. And eventually, somewhere down the line, things will need to move up a little bit. So it's not a permanent solution. Keep that in mind.
We don't want to completely make like the best weapons useless either.
Also, if we did go down the route of having, a different item for every monster in the game, the players would only ask for ways to combine them.
Yeah, that's true.
I still like the idea of having gems that you put into weapons to give them extra benefits, specific items that you can swap in and out of your weapons.
You should try a skill out of that.
Yeah, should do really. But,
Almost like you're inventing your own weapon.
yeah, this would be a bit different to that, I think.
You
And they
get the
each have their own
gemstones.
perks.
You know how you get the gemstones?
How do you get
Everything in game would have a right-click dismantle option.
And it gets broken down to a crushed gem, and then reform into a new gem and apply to your
I
to a
feel
dark.
like I'm breaking down into a crushed gem.
Okay, the next question has an image. Rupert says, please offer Oziak's dad bod rune plate as a clue scroll reward.
I saw this recently. I like that.
What?
We've got a beer belly.
How does the metal bend like that?
He's a smith. He does it himself.
They actually used to make suits of armour to fit people that were larger and they were shaped like that.
See some of the Henry VIII's armour,
Yeah,
they're
that's true.
rather large.
It's probably where the invention of chainmail came along.
What would we call it?
How do we
flexible.
make a dad bod for the female character?
Mumbod.
I don't think we would.
I'm not going to answer that
Is
anymore.
it just a male?
I think there is no politically correct way to answer that
I'm asking you a
question.
very dangerous question, and I realize that.
There's nothing we could say that would benefit anyone.
What would we call it in game?
Well, in game, if you wanted to change it from the dad bod to whatever, you'd give it to Thrander. We'd have to bring back Thrander, and it would be his problem.
Probably just call it Oziak's rune plate, but it'd have to make sense how you got it from him.
Heavy rune plate body, and it's just
Yeah, heavy works.
Large rune plate body.
Do that. It just kind of needs to make sense where it comes from, not all of a sudden. We've decided to sell this now.
Yes.
Oziak's fallen on hard times. He's got to sell his clothes. He's out on the streets.
He'd sell them for quite a lot, I suspect, given what he's got.
Due to everybody eating everything and the more teleportation happening around, it's needed for most people anyway, I think. Less exercise is going on.
We can give
I think
this.
I could see it's actually quite an important service.
Dragon Slayer
Reshaping
2.
of armour.
Done. Dragon Slayer 2.
Yeah, I reshape
Put it
your
to
armour.
rest.
Trade your armour here to have it reshaped.
All right, let's go to the next question. OSRS says, can Wilderness Elite Diary make it so you also receive noted dragon bones from players UPK?
Those are dragon. Oh, I see. When they drop bones they were carrying.
Yes. So, say you found a green dragon bot, you kill him, you want to pick up noted dragon bones.
It would be a little awkward, but I bet we could do it if we did it manually rather than trying to write anything automatic for
Yeah, it's a
it.
tricky tech one, isn't it?
Turning an item into a banknote, annoyingly, means moving it to another inventory and then moving it back again. So, yeah, it would be a right hack.
Doesn't look entirely popular.
That would clean Green Dragons, like, as a whole. It'd be so nice.
Well, if they don't want it, then we don't need to worry about how to make it work.
Yeah.
Okay,
What else you got?
sure. Person says, can you add blood armor and weapons to Last Man Standing? So this is an interesting idea, just one of them that I've thrown in here. So it says they would start out in your inventory, but they would have the same stats as bronze/leather, and as you got kills, they would progressively upgrade a tier and become better over time.
It's a nice idea.
What do you guys think of
It's
that?
a pretty cool concept.
I like things upgrading over time.
It is a cool concept. So here's where it kind of contradicts what we've offered with Last Man Standing. What a lot of people have looked at Last Man Standing and said is, that's great, but I want this. And it ends up being so different from what we pulled and said we would give you and what you voted for. So
That's very true. Yeah, well, Last Man Standing, its core concept is that you have nothing and you just go and fight. It's about your skill and your ability to survive. And we do want to avoid bastardizing that with everyone else's ideas, no matter how cool they are.
One thing
It's
that
a cool
came
idea,
up
though.
is the idea of starter kits. So, like, currently players start with a spear. We could have like different classes where you start with one class starts with a bow and some arrows. One class starts with no weapon but more food. That sort of thing.
that sounds incredibly difficult to balance. People would just go to whichever one is obviously
Oh
the
yeah,
best,
we'd have to judge it right.
It'd be like
And
the start of
ideally,
Hunger
your
Games.
your play style would
Yeah.
dictate which one you want to choose. Ideally,
Yeah.
I think a problem we could potentially encounter with blood armor as well is just the ridiculous snowballing of it. So if one person gets a kill very quickly, they'd then be at such an advantage they'd be able to go around and get far more kills far more easily.
Very true. I think we've talked ourselves out of this one.
Okay, cool.
Nice concept though that we
yeah,
could
it
use
is.
somewhere else though, definitely. Do like that.
All right. My name is Mo says, can the empty Shazian area get a thieving guild?
The Shazian area isn't normally about thieving.
Yeah, Piscarilius is
More
thieving,
about
isn't it?
Shazian's more about law enforcement.
Is Shazian...
Piscarilius is
That's
the
where the
thieving
P-mods
one.
could all hang out.
What's that?
Piscarilius is the fishy one down by the
Yeah,
docks.
that's all the thieving side stuff.
Yeah,
We could do a thieving guild. Although I'd like to think if we were going to do that, it would go in Rogue's Den along with a nice refresh of Rogue's
Yep.
Den.
what
Yes.
color would you associate Shazian and Piscarilius with? I'm mixing up the colors.
This is blue.
Piscarilius is the blue one.
Shazian isn't purple, is it?
It's red.
It's a red one.
Yeah.
Red and
okay,
black.
so that makes no sense. I don't know where he's getting...
Sounds like some wires have been crossed somewhere.
What's the colour of their kits?
Red and black.
What's
could be
What's
that-
it got to do with the thieving guild, though?
Oh, I
it could be that it's just empty space in Shazian and he wants a thieving guild.
But we're going to be addressing that empty space
Well, at
fairly
the
soon.
moment, it's got a whopping bit of a war cemetery.
It's about to have an overhaul, isn't it? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, throughout the autumn we'll be taking on the map rework and getting that one out the door.
Yep.
Somebody mentioned Revenants there.
Ooh. Is that Ronan?
No, somebody in the
Revenants got
chat
lost
just
in the
thinking
wilderness.
obviously there's a connection between obviously the dead people and the cemetery and the ghosts, but I mean that primarily is what we want in the wilderness, isn't it? At some point?
On the topic of
If we did a
Revenant,
Revenant cave that wasn't in the wilderness, it'd be very, very peculiar. And it might slightly defeat the point of what they wanted from the Revenant cave.
on the topic of Revenants, we've been, I mean, Mod Ronan and Jed have been looking at doing that sort of thing in their spare time. Should we do a straw poll and
This
see
is
what our
way too
players
big a
feel about
topic.
Revenants?
Ronan, are you mic'd up?
Yes.
So,
Are you ready to
John-
sell revs?
I could sell revs.
I don't want revs. Convince me why I want revs.
Okay, so PKers know that they're in the minority. Generally, when it comes to polls, a lot of PKing stuff doesn't pass the poll. Revs sort of solve that problem in the sense that they give PVMers something to gain from it. It wouldn't be competing with your Zoras or anything like that, but a slim chance at a really big reward is something that appeals to a lot of people. People of all levels would be able to go there and do it, wouldn't necessarily have to risk much in order to kill the monsters, and it would be a nice little PK hotspot. And if we did it right, it would be a fairly low cost on our side solution to activity in the wilderness that could potentially last a very, very long time and be very active for years to come. That's what Rev Caves did in RS3. It's why it was one of my personal favourite places in the game. It was a really simple concept. There's reasons for people to go there, whether or not they want to risk stuff, and there's reasons for PKs to go there because of that. Yeah, there
And
you
they can be
go.
weak to circles.
You made a couple
No.
good points there. Firstly, it does appeal to all levels. Obviously, revs come in all different shapes and sizes and levels, as well as PKers and PVMers. So there's a very wide audience there, and the low cost of dev time or team time, and obviously we already know what we're doing with it. So the question there is then rewards. I know we don't want to do the rewards that came with that PvP weapons, Vesta Longsword, way too OP for our game, unfortunately, although I would love it. The armors, on the other hand,
Yeah, we pulled the armors back in 2014, I think 13 as well, which is a long time ago now, and there's been a lot of additions to the game since then. So it may be something worth revisiting. It's also worth noting that we can do something that isn't exactly what Rev Caves were, but has the same effect. That's what me and Jed have been looking at doing, is not having it be something that is identical to what was in RS3, but get all the same benefits and have the same longevity without being just a clone. Obviously, there may be some elements that we want to bring over directly to like ensure that they are just as effective as they were in the past, but yeah, it doesn't have to all be exactly the same.
yeah. Cool. Let's probably get this chat going. I imagine there's probably going to be a Reddit thread. You guys can talk about your ideas of what you liked, what you didn't like, where we could improve, and all that stuff. But I think we're probably going to be considering polling that sometime next year, maybe?
Can't remember.
Maybe late this year?
I don't know.
Next month.
This month? Ooh.
Next month.
Shall we do a struggle now then?
See how the discussions
Revenants
go,
with
of course.
PvP armor and not weapons.
I tried 3. Let's try with PvP armor, without PvP armor, Revenants on their own, and then no. See what happens.
Just make sure it's not a yes or no strap pull.
Let's give them 3 options. It gets complicated then.
Just make the question
The
Revenant.
rock's about to explode because he's not sure what's going on now.
One thing to
3
consider
answers.
is that if we don't have the PvP armors there, we will need to find an alternative to make it a lucrative enough place so that people want to go there. I think PvP armors are actually fairly well balanced for what they offer, and they'd be valuable without necessarily taking things up a notch because they degrade into nothing. They'll be permanently valuable, but
They degrade after an hour of combat. The corrupt ones degrade after 20 minutes of just wearing it. Was that right?
Yes.
Like these things are in and out of the game.
I think it's
And-
15 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it depends on you being in combat all the same. Although
Corrupt?
it might be doing it all the time while you.
Yeah, corrupt. Was just
Corrupt, you just had to wear them.
Yeah,
I knew that because I
interesting.
bought a corrupt Vesta Longsword and I was showing it off, walking around the Grand Exchange, and then it was just gone. I was like, where'd it go?
It really wasn't very long though.
Yeah. They'd really spiced up PKing.
Oh, I used the
That was
best
nice
longsword. But we're not offering the weapons. Just clarify that. But that VLS was incredible.
we're getting straw poll errors, so we might have to wait a bit.
Okay, we'll get that up to you guys
Did we break
momentarily.
straw poll?
In the meantime, let's hop over to the next question, which is from Plubus, who says, can the Iban staff remember to autocast Iban Blast after switching weapons?
Do people use it for other spells ever?
Not likely.
I would doubt it.
So if it did, then that would mean you click on it to equip it, and you are now automatically autocasting the kind of behaviour that's only ever seen on the Trident normally.
That is correct.
And the reason we were unsure about having the Trident work in PvP was we weren't sure whether people would appreciate people being able to do PvP and suddenly switch to autocasting Mage with just one click. Now the Wyvern spell is slower than the Trident spell, but that concern might turn out to apply again. And given that the players never did vote to have the Tridents work in normal PvP, it might be an issue here. So, what have we got?
So we got the results back from that straw poll. Well, they're voting right now, but we
Weapons
can
with
see that
PvP
happening
armor
live.
and without PvP weapons. Oh, okay, yeah.
It is a yes or no question. Revenant
complicated.
with PvP armor and without PvP weapons. Yes or no? That is confusing. Whatever. It's got 68% yes.
That's all
We've
right.
definitely got a concept to
Yeah.
build on.
I think if we could gather the things that you guys don't like and see if we can create some solutions there.
So yeah, somebody put a thread on Reddit if it's not already there and tell us what you think.
Someone's already got the karma. It's happened.
Yeah, I would expect so, yeah.
Thanks for voting, by the way.
Cool.
I think there's something to look at with the Ivan stuff though. We'll see what players think about it.
Yeah.
That's a very valid point to raise, though, because it does effectively just make Magic a one-click thing.
Well, polypore.
Okay. Next question. C Daddy says, can we reduce the dialogue when fighting metal dragons? The game chat spams almost every attack saying your shield absorbs most of the dragon fire, followed by your potion protects you.
Now, if you right-click the game filter and hit
He's
filter,
asking for this to be filtered.
it should be.
Is it not?
It
Or
should
is?
be.
It should be.
If it's not, then it should be.
Okay.
We can check.
If it
If
doesn't
not-
filter that, what would it filter?
Well, it depends
It must
exactly
filter that.
which phrases our former colleague flagged as spam when he went through manually and put the flag on them. Something that he volunteered to do himself and did
And
do
then ended
himself.
up delegating
and
half
since
of
then
it to
we've been
me.
tweaking ever since whenever players want something done a bit differently.
People saying it does and it doesn't. It probably does.
One of the more interesting things we tweaked recently was, you get the big fish when you're fishing.
Yeah.
It was filtered for getting a normal fish, of course, because you catch a bass all the time. You don't need a message about that. But it was also filtering you catch an enormous bass. So I unfiltered that one, which means you do get a message if something interesting turns up, which you wouldn't necessarily have noticed otherwise.
If only our former esteemed colleague had the foresight
Yeah.
to read what he was editing before he edited it.
We
He did
could.
rather a lot of it by searching for phrases beginning with the word "you," and I can see why, because there's a lot of phrases in the game, but it wasn't always the right approach.
It's a reasonable assumption to make that one would read the thing before editing the string.
Right. All right, moving
With
on.
more POH hunters, we could actually add more big fish.
We can, yes.
We count them.
I have no idea where this conversation's gone to.
Have you told them on stream yet that we've increased the...
I don't know.
I
Okay, so
tweeted it.
But you can again.
I tweeted it too, but yeah. Actually, I noticed your tweet a lot more than mine. Close up. So, in the POH update that I've been working on, due out towards the end of this month, if all goes well, I'm trying to revamp a lot of the data behind POH. So at the moment, it's only got a certain amount of memory to store the details of each room, and that meant that we'd got space for only 7 hotspots, 3 of which had 7 options, and the other of which had 3 options. I'm allocating a lot more memory, which means that we can have an 8th hotspot for each room. That means all the rooms that exist already can be given an 8th thingy. And all the hotspots, all 8 of them, will be able to have 31 options, which means that when you guys say to us week on week, why don't you add an option to teleport to this other place from the teleport portals, and we have to say, sorry, all the slots are full. In future, they won't all be full, and we can actually maybe say yes to some of this stuff, because we'd like to. It's a hand.
So basically, Ash rewrote the entire data structure of the POH skill, and I can't emphasize enough just how big and difficult that is.
It was not easy, and I may have broken the whole darn thing. We'll find out when Mods, Rock and Ed get on it in
Soon,
the next
yeah.
couple of weeks. In the meantime, that doesn't mean that this update to POH is going to come out with all these other things you might suggest now. Not that you seem to be. Gosh, you've got some interesting suggestions, though. So no, we're not trying to pad out the update with all the other thoughts you had right now. If we start putting in more and more, we'll never actually get the update out at all. But in future, we will be able to do a lot more with POH than we have in the past, and I'll be quite excited about it.
Okay.
Karen teleport portal,
wait.
Moon Clan
a
teleport
good
portal.
That menu you've made so far, it's just amazing.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Menu? Oh, that menu.
Could-
Yes. Well, I've tweeted a picture of that one.
Making a POH is now just so nice.
As of Monday, I got it so that you could move a room from place to place. Now, I know when we wrote the blog, I said that in the case of staircases, we probably wouldn't be able to do it, because the idea of moving a room and having the staircases connect to try and do something interesting was probably not going to happen. Then I realised what I could do, right, is move the entire thing. So if you're moving, say, your skill hall on the ground floor, and it's got a quest hall above it linked by a staircase, well, just move the pair of them. I mean, it may not be what you wanted,
That
but
makes
if you don't
sense.
like it, just move it back again.
God, Ash.
And it's got quite complicated, because you could be trying to move a dungeon stairs room in your dungeon, and it might be linked by a spiral staircase all the way up to the top of the house. And I tried to move the whole damn thing. This may prove undesirable for you. If you don't like it, wouldn't we just move it back again? Because the menu lets you do that. It's not charging you either.
I wish it was this easy to move house in real life.
Oh, you're moving?
No, but
Yeah. I think if you had an option in real life for moving the staircase of your house, that would be a very strange thing. Anyway, I still haven't got around to doing add room. It needs add room.
Which gives that to your house as well.
you have to get council planning permission first. It's a nightmare.
I know they're fast tracking it.
Okay.
So that's what I've been working on.
Right. Should we try to get through the rest of these questions? I've still got a bunch saved
Quick
from
fire,
last
let's
week.
go.
Let's do some quick fire ones. Okay. As fast as possible.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
Except for me. I'll talk slowly. Biomaster Zap says, instead of noted bars from Brimhaven metals being moved to the hard diary, could medium be 1 bar, hard be 3, and elite note all 5?
Yes, if the players want it. Next.
Guess where this is going?
Mello says, how do I get the Helm of Raidwald? If you could be very specific, please.
No. Bye. Next question.
Oh, I can answer that. You just go and solve the clue.
Okay. Follow-up question. What did you think of Wooks' stream?
I knew the answer. Wooks doesn't.
No?
So,
Who's Wooks?
yeah, he's
Wooks
got
does
a
not know
little
the
way to
answer.
go to catch up with this. It's-
And a long way to go. Ooh, you heard it
Yeah.
here first.
It's
Okay.
like what small thing?
Plutonium says, can you please consider polling shooting stars and evil tree diversions and distractions?
No.
We have considered it.
Burrito says, remove the requirement of searching for hours and hours just to get a mid-level teleport to Zaya. If it's that much to ask, could there be a fee of 250k for an NPC to find it for you? It's a lot of money.
As those root books can sometimes be kind of exchanged for XP, we've been pretty cautious about adding a thing that lets you find it easily.
Yeah, and I quite like the sort of community interaction it's got that's an ongoing thing. Like you see a new thread every day of someone that's found it and sharing that location. So.
Okay. Mikester says, any chance to see the return of the old Abyssal Whip special attack? This was a 50%. Hold on, I like this special attack. It's
You
a
would.
50% chance to hit your max hit or a 0.
No.
There's a reason this was changed.
good.
And that was changed before Old School.
Yeah, that's why I can't find anything about it in the
2005.
records at all. I went looking.
No,
We are much more concerned about power creep than they were when they nerfed that. So,
All right. Abercrombie says, could you please make it so that if you have a key, it automatically opens the door / chest / whatever, so you don't have to use the key on
It does that in some places. We would have to go through all of them to try and catch them. If we get a list of the most popular, I imagine Crystal
Dusty
Chest.
key?
Dusty Key, yeah. Let us know which ones they are and we'll address them one
Perhaps
by
you
one.
could just specify which one's bothering him.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
Hasama says, in the alchemy chamber in Magic Training Arena, you lose all your money if you disconnect. Could the coins be automatically made into points if you deposited instead?
Mod Rock shaking his head, I think it's an answer.
Okay. Moose
Why
has
does
a...
wait, but on that? Why does the player get moved out of the chamber if they log
Yeah.
out? Why?
Pass.
Do they have to?
I have no idea why that was written that. You've been in that developer's code a lot today. You seem quite
That
happy
developer's
changing
good.
it.
Oh, we went there a little while ago for the teleconnect thing, right?
I rewrote a lot of that.
Yes.
Right. Moose has a suggestion here. An enchantment spell on their Arceus spellbook that turns dragonstones into ancient shards. Dragonstone sync.
Nice.
Doesn't fit the law.
Buyable ancient shards.
Well, obviously they're untradeable right now, but what would you value them at?
3 shards equals 1,000 Dark Light charges. And no one really uses the secondary thing for the teleports around the thing.
What even is a dragonstone worth right now? Would you value it at that?
Depending on the cost of the runes for the thing, there's value in that, and he's balancing.
Okay.
I like
Cool,
that.
yeah.
And you'd be okay with them being viable, huh?
Seems popular.
Could be a very high level spell.
I don't want it to take away from the catacombs too much.
No,
says-
it's very true.
He says Arceus spellbook. So, it's the
The
does that
necromancy.
fit necromancy spellbook though?
Doesn't quite fit the lure of the catacombs, and it does, as Kieran say, removes a lot of the purpose and does make them tradable.
Right.
There's a lot of things holding that back, maybe not.
Maybe we should find some different way of buffing them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Chris, I'm just going to go back to see a second.
Yeah. So Mongos is going to be showing you guys the second ever raids boss, if he can get that set up. Good luck. Let's go through a few more
If
questions
not,
here.
print some out and hold it up to the camera.
Death says barehanded butterflies for the hunter skill.
We can make it so you can barehand the existing butterflies if they're asking for the one that was released in sometime previously, I can't remember what year, where there was super high level butterflies that gave a load of agility XP and hunter XP and became best in stock for both of them. I would be very surprised if that went through a poll.
I would happily do it more in the line of what Implings did. You can just catch them without a jar.
But I
That's
imagine
basically it. You
very
get the
few
XP.
people will even bother.
Okay.
But I don't know how much value there is.
All right, Addy says, can you address people trying to create teams in Last Man Standing? Yes, if you speak to the NPC Lisa, although a lot of you guys just skipped the dialogue because you're excited, Lisa will tell you teaming is not allowed in Last Man Standing, and we are taking action against people who try to do so, particularly if you're standing there saying, join my team and I'll team up with you and help you win in Last Man Standing. That's definitely not allowed, and you will receive an offense.
Make sure
for
you
it. I'm not
report
gonna
those
say.
people so we can see what's
Yeah.
going on and then we can deal with it.
Right. There's an image with this next one, but Ronan's busy, so
Just go over
I'll
them.
paint a picture for you.
Right, yeah.
It's fine.
Livey2 says, Mage Arena expansion suggestion. So it's been brought up 100 times, but he's got a few different ideas for it. So grind-based with repeatable end section to reapply the added power. God spells will now have double the drain effects they did prior. Staves, or staves, however you say it, can now store the runes they use. That's a big one. They can all auto-cast their own spell. Damage boost if combined with the God Cape and God Halo. So Sarah Staff, Sarah Cape, Sarah Halo, and you're doing 15% more damage.
The idea of doing a major arena expansion has come up a lot fairly recently. So I'm really keen to do one of those pieces of content at some point.
Yes, give it something to do there. Maybe a
Storing-
reason to go again.
Storing runes in the staffs sounds appealing to me because I remember trying to PK with that staff and it was annoying because you needed so many.
Stick with the rune
It's the
pouch.
same, if it
That's true.
automatically autocasts, it's the same issue as what was mentioned in 5 and staff.
Which they might be okay with.
You might be able to store them in the staff, but not necessarily autocast as well.
I would stick them in the staff, as we've got a rune pouch that sort of alleviates
Yeah.
that on a global scale.
What do you think about the set effect? So the matching God Cape, the matching God Halo.
I think that's a reasonable idea.
Yeah.
The Halo, maybe not, because
Makes
it
Castle Wars.
it is annoying to obtain. The Cape is obviously obtained from the same piece of content, but it gives you a reason to actually get the matching one.
Right.
Maybe they finally get a Halo, the colour they thought they wanted.
Okay.
Triple
It's an interesting idea then. There's definitely potential, but definitely needs a lot of work.
and need 70 defense to play the minigame.
I saw a suggestion on the chat for requiring 2 defence to play the minigame. I guess you're in the same ballpark.
I definitely like the idea of doing an expansion though.
No.
All right. Let's get through these. Just a few more questions here before we head over to Mod Ghost. Right. So there's an image with this first one. Intense Hamster says, Rune Crafting Cape real perk. Don't really need an image with it. The perk that comes with the Rune Crafting Cape he's suggesting is making essence pouches not degrade when you have the cape equipped.
I'll be happy to pull that.
We considered that, didn't we, initially?
We did, but we thought it was a bit more than a perk, but
yeah.
I would happily offer it.
It's
to be
not
honest.
necessarily OP, it just feels like a little bit more incredibly useful than all the other kind of perks, but yeah.
I think what you got there, I wouldn't mind giving you a big perk.
Okay. There's another one here from Lego Farmer. Says, make the agility cape only allow obstacle success. That makes no sense.
So
but
you want permanent no fatal on all agility
so
obstacles?
Brimhaven would be a good agility course.
It's a lot of places to change. We could do a search for stat random agility, and there's probably quite a few.
We could go with, as a rule on, training arenas, training courses, but not try to apply it to every quest place that ever existed.
Yeah.
Do you fail obstacles at 99 agility?
Rarely, and it's not all courses.
Right. Okay.
Brimhaven's the one that comes, I think, Werewolf, maybe?
Certainly courses in Brimhaven, we can make them. It could make it all succeed.
All right. Just a couple more here. Paper Skittle says, can the woodcutting cape receive a teleport to the woodcutting guild?
Didn't we just put that on the skills necklace?
Yes.
Yeah. So no, is the answer.
Any other plans for the cape?
To be honest, I'd like to do something
I
more.
wouldn't mind putting it on the cape as well. Why
Yeah,
not?
if we've got one on the skills necklace, yeah, I guess.
At least then it's free. Addy says, can the last man standing minigame be put on the minigames teleport tab? The quest thing there.
So it's right next to Clan Wars.
That's
Yeah,
there,
the clan.
yeah.
We could rename the Clan Wars one to be maybe more appropriately named for the two of them.
Battle
but
area or something.
that one basically covers it.
Okay.
Oasis near PvP minigames.
Yeah.
Well, it's not as catchy as Gamer's Grotto.
I'm just going to check. Do we have time for more questions, or are we ready for the raids sneak peek?
Read the thing. Gareth's PC isn't currently working, so we're trying to sort out some images.
Fantastic. We have more questions.
We have a few on the board if you want to cover those.
Yeah, let's do that. Australian servers, go.
Any news?
Yes, well, there's no new news. It's still the same as it was before, which is some point early August. Installing a whole new server network into a country is not an easy thing to do. It involves multiple companies. It's not just us that has to do stuff. It's the companies who do all the stuff in around the world that have to be involved as well. But everything's looking good at the moment. Hopefully that will continue to look good, and early August is hopefully when you'll see it.
Early August.
You what?
Early August.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Really?
It's August now.
Wow.
It is August now, yes.
Oh.
Yes. Unfortunately, they do not appear to have given us an estimate of how early August.
Yes, exactly. We've got to be flexible because it's a case of we have everything set up, or I don't know if we have, but if we've got everything set up our end, we then have to talk to the people who are doing the work over in Australia themselves, saying, right, we need you to do this. And if they've got an engineer who's somewhere else that needs to get there, then that adds extra time, and then they might have to fly out some more equipment to make this bit work. So they didn't realise that needs to go into that. So there's loads and loads of different companies involved to make this work. So it is a very difficult, complicated thing.
Importing potatoes is difficult.
Yes, but it is happening. It is looking good. So fingers crossed it will continue looking good. But work still needs to be done, and we'll just have to be patient until it's done.
Does anybody dare to tackle stealing creation?
Ronan's actually got a pretty good answer. Do you want to?
Ronan, do you want to answer? Because you seem interested in
Must
this.
have repeated it enough times in the last couple of days.
Hello. So one of the things that we're considering doing at some point in the future is a minigame. We did the priority poll, and what people said was they wanted a minigame which was a mixture of PvP, PvM, and skilling. And while stealing and creation does tick off 2 of those boxes, it also, and it is something familiar, it's also a big job for us to do, and the rewards are just not compatible with old school. People, as much as they say, oh, we play stealing creation without the rewards, you wouldn't. Without an incentive to keep playing it, there's not going to be enough people there. So what we're considering is, I'm going to go with the title
Creation Wars?
Creation Wars, which of course is a working title. But essentially, rather than stealing creation where you just straight up skill, you'd be in with 2 teams against each other, similar to Soul Wars, and your goal would be people would PvM to farm up supplies, people would then skill to build up an avatar, and do things to power up their avatar, and maybe they can build it in certain ways to give it more range attack or mage attack or melee attack, which is a great idea that Kieran had. And then at the end, the 2 avatars battle it out, and their teams help take down the other team's avatar. So it's a nice combination of PvP. Oh yeah, of course you'd be able to kill the other team at the same time to stop them in their tracks and slow them down. So it's a nice way to mix all of those elements together. So it would sort of tick off the box of stealing creation and the Soul Wars requests. So we're going to get up a proper design for that at some point in the near future, and we will propose that to you. I can't put dates on this yet. It's still quite a way off. But yeah, in the future.
It's best not to try and give an ETA for launching something before you finish designing it.
This is very true.
What we find
really
is if
like
we give an
that.
ETA for something such as early August is between the 1st and up to the 15th realistically, and the 1st is when they ask. And I saw somebody post today, it's been 3 months tomorrow when they said that these servers will be out in 2 to 3 months. So the community is very strict on any dates that we could possibly give them.
I really like this idea though. I think it could be really interesting. I've got this vision in my head of the head-up display with all the different parameters that you're building up on this avatar, and you can't see what your team's building, so you don't know why you're going down the right route. You can build up one weights, how often it's going to do a mage attack, or how often it's going to do a melee attack, that sort of thing. I think it'd be really cool.
If you're wondering why is it we can do that, but we couldn't just make stealing creation happen, because obviously you've got that in a copy and paste archive somewhere. Well, the thing is, we actually haven't. The archive available to us, obviously we've got RS3. Their code is really quite different to ours after all these years of the engine evolving. And we've got access to some stuff from 2011 as well. Not complete, but quite a lot of it. again, still quite different. So if we pasted that into the old school code base, well, it just wouldn't pack. And in all the time we'd spend, try to edit it, rewrite it, make it use the 2007 version of the language, well, frankly, it would be quite a slow job. We may as well have just rewritten it anyway, because if we know what the thing's meant to do, we can write that code. But then there's the graphics. And any time after 2008, the graphic format was so different to what we've got after the HD update, when things were made for a game with a Z buffer in its graphics engine. We could not adapt those without effectively recreating each model almost from scratch.
And Steel Inquisition had a lot.
And Soul Wars had more. So if we said, we're going to make Stealing Creation, here it is, and you then found it didn't look like Stealing Creation, some of you would be okay with that, because, what's cosmetic stuff? Others of you, it wouldn't have the nostalgia, and I sense a lot of you do want the nostalgia if you keep demanding this minigame be brought back, even without rewards. So if we tried to give it to you as it was, either we'd spend, ages trying to recreate the graphics as accurately as possible, or it would look wrong and you wouldn't thank us for it. Or you'd ask for a toggle to change between all the versions you could imagine.
I think Ronan made a good point saying a lot of people think they want the minigame, but they really want the double XP rewards that came with it. And that's a very fine line for our game.
A fun poll for them.
I mean, I'm sure there is still a handful of people out there that would continue playing it because it was fun, but probably barely enough to run a single game.
I think it's more exciting doing...
So in the meantime, if we created a new minigame that wasn't trying to be Stealing Creation and it didn't look like Stealing Creation, well, that's fine. And making new graphics is quicker than trying to recreate something from a different version of the engine a very long time ago. So we'd be able to create the graphics for this one a lot faster than if it had to look like what you remembered from several years back.
Right.
And picking up on Chris's point there as well that he just said, I think a good way to summarise it might be, you think you want it, but you don't. That's a good meme there.
I've seen somebody say that before.
Have we got...
we have vanilla service.
How are we doing for this raids boss? Is it going to happen this week, or should we postpone until next week?
So I've got email working some images, then we'll be done, but then he's got to set them up, so we'll probably call it this time, so we're past 6 now.
Maybe you can stick off on Twitter later. That'd be a good thing to do.
Wait 2 minutes.
Yeah, we can wait 2 minutes. We've got some more questions. I don't mind. All right. Cool. So let's see here. EJK asks, can people who have skulled on you in the wilderness get a skull in front of their name similar to how you did for Dead Men mode? Would prevent skull tricking and would make it easier to know who you're fighting.
Is that people who scold on you or people who scold at all?
People who are skulled at all. That's a good point, though. You would still obviously skull on the guy.
But
you would know.
Would not be feasible, I'd imagine.
No.
But someone who's skulled could have that skull icon show
Yep.
exactly in the same way it does in Dead Man.
The thing
Which might solve this thing they're talking about with the skull tricking.
Yeah, the other thing is when you're being attacked by a pile, sometimes you can't always see the guy that's hitting you in this way. Actually, no, you would, because they'd all be skulled anyway, so
Well, the
wouldn't
good
help you
news
at all,
is
would
that
it?
they don't seem to want it, so we don't need to worry about exactly what the question meant.
I like the idea. If it helps with the skull trick and stuff, I like the idea for that.
Our community is very savage, though, and they think, well, if you're going to get skull tricked, you deserve it.
It took a very long time for them to come around to the idea of having an icon in that thing at all. If you remember when we first offered it for Iron Men,
Yes.
and they were dead nuts against it, so we left the matter alone. But they may have changed their minds.
All right. I think I've got one last question here. James says, will Last Man Standing continue to be updated as the weeks go on?
See the news post. Yes.
Yes,
There you
there's
go.
going to be a huge amount of feedback, and that feedback will be implemented, and we'll try and do the best for the game mode. So,
As for the question we've had a few times today of, well, if you're going to keep changing it, why did you stop it being a beta then? The thing is, it's been through quite a few iterations. It's now stable. Jed fixed the last crash bug over a week ago. So letting you go in there and actually stake and win real coins is okay now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there'll be a few more bugs and there'll be a few more things to change, and it doesn't have the whole menu of maps that players have asked for. But there's something there to play with, and people have been playing it quite heavily from the numbers we've seen so far.
Yeah. If I can just add one thing, as you said with the betas, whatever. If we were to continue doing betas, every week as we would, and people would say, oh, now we want this change, now we want this change, I promise you we'd be through 100, and people would still be saying, well, now we want this for next week, because we have such a wide array of people trying to play this minigame. It's not just PKers, it's everybody. And to try to appeal to all of them, everybody wants something different, it's literally impossible. So we just have to do as good as we can, really. But yeah, anyways, I think we've got those images for the second raids boss, so let's do that.
Did my best for you. Yeah, so this is the Great Olm. No, it's not really.
It's really cute on the left.
It is cute. It's what you've got to protect as part of this boss. Basically, I can't tell you more than that, but you just have to look after these guys and make sure they don't get hurt.
Ooh.
And if we move to the next image, we'll show you what you're protecting them from. There we go. So that's basically like an orthographic image of this thing that crawls around on the floor. It's like this, it's very big, by the way, this sort of like wasp-like insect. And then we can show you them flying. Cool. Yeah, that does look kind of cool. It's a shame I can't show you it in the editor because you'll get to see the transition where the wing cases open.
See that.
I know, never mind. Hopefully next week I'll be able to kind of bundle that in with the next boss that we show you too, so you get like a double whammy next week.
Yeah.
Cool. Yes, have nightmares. That's what I want you to do.
What does orthographic mean?
Orthographic just means it's completely flat without any perspective, so it just kind of takes the image and just takes every sort of aspect that's far away and close to you and sort of brings them both together.
Fancy art term for what 2D image.
Yeah, maybe. It's just what they taught me.
There's a toggle for it in our interface editor, I think.
Okay, I think we're just about done with the Q&A then.
All right.
Yeah, cool.
Just a quick reminder that if you want to buy some hats, you can do so from the RuneScape merch store.
Thanks for watching, guys.
We've still got tickets for RuneFest as well. So
Do we really?
Not many, though.
That's
right
fair.
there.
Must be like a handful.
We can always find more, I'm sure. But yeah, come and if you want to come meet us all, we'll all be at RuneFest, except for Ronan.
So we're going over some of our plans for RuneFest yesterday. It's really exciting.
We've got some good stuff to talk about. So if you want to come, we will be there. We would love to see you all because that's why we do what we do, is to do stuff for you guys. So please do come and come see us if you can.
And if you don't want to meet us, you can meet some of your favorite streamers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't want to meet us, you can hide behind your famous streamers.
Yeah.
You don't have to talk to us or anything.
But we'd like to, which would be good.
Okay. RuneFest is, what, 5
Sorry.
weeks?
Yeah, just over 5 weeks away.
Yeah.
now.
Cool.
September 18th, 17th.
17th, September 17th, at the Evolution in Battersea Park. The building has not yet been built.
I went there on Tuesday actually to see if there was anything there, and I found a car park. That was about it.
It's a temporary building that it's in,
frightening.
or a temporary structure that's built for 9 months of the year or something.
Okay.
And they take it down for the summer, so the actual it's not being
So
built
people
until
can use the grassy
5th of
field.
September. Yeah, so they're not being built until 5th of September, I think. So it's
All right. Well, that aside, Last Man Standing did come out today. To recap, at the beginning of the stream, I just think it's really cool. It's already sunk like 2.5 bill out of the game. By the end of this stream, it's probably like 3.5.
Yeah, that's
So-
reasonable.
It's
And
incredible.
you could also
it's a lot of
flax
fun.
into bowstring with lunar magic.
Another nature rune sync.
yeah,
Cool.
beautiful.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week.
So, yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye.